So the other day I was talking with my partner here at Legion Steel, and she happened to mention a topic that seemed to stick with me. Hi there, welcome. I'm Marshall. Now, while I've been a knife maker for over 20 years, I'm very accustomed to knife etiquette and superstitions. So none of it really phases me. And I never logically found a reason to think further about it because, to be honest, it is what it is. So I decided to dig deeper into the topic, and I found while knife etiquette has seemed to remain the same throughout the years, well, knife superstitions continue to come and go, and some actually shouldn't be done. But we'll get to those here in a bit, so stick around with me and we'll find out. So, knife etiquette is a very old and traditional thing, and it's kind of more than one thing. It's first off common courtesy and respect mixed with some basic safety. So, understanding knife etiquette when handling knives is rather important because not only can you offend somebody with a knife, which won't end good, or you can actually hurt yourself or somebody else. So, while we talk about etiquette today, we're going to start with the most basic, which is how to hand a knife to someone else. Now, idealistically, if the situation allows, the best way to give a knife to another person is to set it down on a surface and allow them to pick it up. But life is not always on our terms, so sometimes this can't happen. And if you have to hand a knife directly to another person, what you're going to want to do is grip the blade by the spine with it in the palm of your hand, your fingers curled in tight, gripping the blade firmly, but away from the edge. And then you'll extend your arm out for them to take the knife. Once they've grabbed the knife and acknowledged in some way, verbally or non-verbally, that they have the knife, release the blade and bring your hand safely back to you. Like I said, it's always best to just set it down, but if you can't, that's what you want to do to keep safe and make sure that nobody gets hurt or the knife doesn't fall. Now, picking up another person's knife. This is more of a respect thing. You don't want to pick up another person's knife without asking permission. You don't know what they were doing when they set it down. They don't know if it needed to be there for a reason, if they're going to come back and get it from that spot. You could end up holding them up on what they were doing with the knife and causing a delay in something. So it's always best to ask before picking up someone else's knife. Now that brings us to using someone else's knife. Whenever you use someone else's knife, we've all had to borrow a knife at one time or another in our lives. It's always best to respect that it's not yours. It's somebody else's property. It belongs to them. And so we might abuse our own things, but it's just rude to abuse somebody else's belongings. So remember, this is not yours. Treat it with respect. Somebody's helping you out by allowing you to use it. Then there's also putting a knife into your pocket without asking permission when it's not yours. And so I've seen this happen many times. Somebody borrows the knife, puts it in their pocket, even though there was no real reason to do so, and they end up going home with it. So always ask if you're going to be utilizing the knife long enough, if it's fine that you carry it in your pocket, or if they would like it right back after you're done using it. This is just a matter of respect. Now, today's pocket knives are not your grandfather's pocket knives. And so there's a wide variety of opening mechanisms and locking mechanisms out there. So it's not all that uncommon now for someone to potentially not know how to open or close a knife. And rather than try and fumble around with it and risk dropping someone else's property or something that you haven't purchased yet and damaging it, or even hurting yourself or someone else in the immediate vicinity, it's always best to ask how to open or close it, whatever you're struggling with at that moment. This next bit of knife etiquette is one of my personal pet peeves, And this is more tailored to a knife or gun show or a retail environment. When you're handling a brand new knife, something that is in pristine condition, be cognizant of the jewelry you're wearing, such as rings or bracelets. These things can come in contact with the handle, and on a brand new knife, they can leave a mar or a scratch sometimes. On something like a handmade knife, the finishes can be very fine and very delicate. And somebody could have put 100 hours or more into a knife, and by you just picking it up at the table at the show, with your ring, leave a scratch or a blemish on one of the polished surfaces. This can cause the knife maker to not be able to sell the knife as new, or to have to take it home and correct the problem and try and sell it again at another date. So it's always respectful to be aware of the jewelry you have on your hands and wrist and make sure that they don't damage the knife in any way. Now we come to checking the edge with your thumb. And this is a very typical way to check to see how sharp the knife is. However, most people do it wrong. I've seen it a million times. They put their thumb on the edge of the blade, and this is perfectly fine, but then they run their finger down the blade. You can get cut, end up with stitches, bleed all over the place. This is not the right way to do it. What you want to do is gently place your thumb on the edge of the knife and draw across the knife. If the knife is sharp, the edge will catch on the ridges of your fingerprints and feel like it wants to bite into you. This is safe. You're not likely to be cut unless you're really pressing into it. If the knife doesn't grab on the ridges of your fingerprints, well then the knife probably needs sharpened. Another way to check it is to use your thumbnail. Same technique, you're drawing across the edge, not down the edge, but you place the edge of the knife on your thumbnail. Your nail is soft enough that the edge, if it's sharp, will want to bite in and not slide. If it slides, the knife needs to be sharpened. If it bites in, you have an edge. So these are the best two techniques for checking to see if a knife is sharp if you don't have something that you can just cut and test it that way. Now, we all know that knives are tools before they're anything else. And so another aspect of knife etiquette is to respect it. Knives should never be used as a pry bar or a screwdriver, but we've all seen that guy that does it or been that guy that does it. And I was once told that a knife will be the most expensive, least effective pry bar that you will ever own. And that leads us right into using the right knife for the job. Different cutting jobs require different knives. As you saw in some of our previous videos, we talked about different blade shapes and how they apply to specific cutting tasks. So if you don't know, go watch those videos, maybe do a little Google search, and learn what blade shapes are applied to what type of cutting tasks, so that you can use the proper knife for the job at hand. Otherwise, you could end up hurting yourself. And speaking about hurting yourself, never, ever grab for a falling knife. Just let it hit the floor. In fact, step back away from it, because any attempt to grab a falling knife, whether you drop it or someone else drops it, you're risking getting cut, and probably cut badly, because the knife is going to have some momentum behind it and you're moving towards it. That can end up being a very painful situation. And when you're in a group of people and you have to walk around with a knife, if it's a folding knife, be sure to close it, put it in your pocket, put it in a belt case, even keep it in your hand, and you can transport it just fine that way through a crowd. If it's a sheath knife and you have the sheath on, place it in the sheath, you're good to go. But if you don't, and you have to walk around with the blade exposed, the best way to do it is to grab the handle, hold the knife in front of you, point down, edge to the side where it's not directed to anybody you could walk into or yourself, and keep a firm grip on it and move through the room. There's what's called the blood circle. You have to understand the blood circle. So the blood circle is the reach of your arm plus the length of the blade. Anybody within that distance from you is at risk of being cut while you're walking with a knife. So to avoid this, another thing you can do is, if you can't keep people outside of that blood circle because space doesn't allow, extend your arm out in front of the knife, your hand that's not holding it, and you can use that to deflect people out of the way. That way nobody bumps into the blade and gets cut, or pushes the blade into you, causing you to get cut. Now, these next bits of etiquette are for the knife show, gun show, a retail environment. You never want to pick up a knife from a table or booth or display without asking first. You want to make sure that the employee or craftsman is aware that you're handling the knife. This is very respectful and very simple. They deal with a lot of people at one time often, looking at their wares, and they won't necessarily know that you have their knife. So by just simply asking and saying something like, "May I?" they will almost always say yes. It's just a respectful thing to let them be aware of where their product is at any given time. Another one for the knife show or gun show is, we all know there's social events. We're all into these things. We enjoy them. For many of us, it's a hobby, not just a tool. We collect a wide variety of knives. So there's social events. Either you meet with people that you know already, or you make a new friend. It's perfectly fine to conversate at these things, but if you're going to conversate, move away from a table or booth. Don't block it. That's disrespectful to the salesman or the craftsman that made the knife. They're there to make money. They pay money to be at these shows, and blocking customers is just kind of a rude thing to do. Okay, so now that we've covered etiquette, we're going to move on to what we've all been waiting for, the superstitions. These can be fun and kind of strange. So the first one we have up is dropping a knife. If you happen to be looking for that special someone, this one's just for you. The dropping of a knife foretells the visit of a special friend in the near future. So don't go dropping the knife on purpose. Apparently, this superstition doesn't apply if you do it intentionally. There's also this one. If someone drops their pocket knife on the ground, they're calling on more luck and success in the future. So sometimes these superstitions, they can be contrary to each other, probably different cultural influences. Now, according to a still widespread superstition, the giving of a knife as a gift can bring bad luck or cut the ties of friendship between the blade giver and the recipient. For this reason, those who receive a knife as a gift should get rid of the bad luck by offering a coin, which makes it a purchase and not a gift. In other cultures, the gifting of a knife is a sign of great respect. This makes me think about a story my grandfather once told me when I was young. He said, and I believe this is an Old Norse tale, if you receive a knife as a gift, it is customary to give the giver specifically three chickens in response to receiving a blade as a gift.
Bring me one of those chickens.
I don't know why 3 chickens, but he really drove the point home with 3 chickens. I've never had 3 chickens in my entire life, so I would probably be out of luck. This next one is one that says that no one should ever hand a knife directly to another person. As it said, the two might get into a fight. Instead, the person should always place the knife down on the surface, and only then can the other one pick it up. This one, I think, is a superstition that leads to the moral lesson of safely transferring a knife from one person to the other. Now, there's also superstitions for broken knives, like never give your lover or friend a broken knife, as this will sever the relationship. Or leave the broken knife unfixed, as this will bring future heartbreak to the owner. And don't ask me what to do if you can't fix the knife. I guess maybe use some duct tape or super glue. No, JB Weld. On the flip side of the broken knife superstition, many people believe that if you drop your favorite kitchen knife and break it, this will bring you some good fortune because now you can go out and purchase another one. I don't know why spending money is good fortune, but they think it is. It's also believed that if you put a broken knife under your pillow at night, the broken pieces will grow back together by morning. Another superstition states that a broken knife simply brings good luck for no apparent reason. So, which is which? I'll let you decide. Now, different cultures and different trades have their own superstitions. So this one's for the seafaring people. You should never stir your tea or coffee with a knife. It'll bring bad luck on the water. I'm not sure what kind of bad luck it'll bring, but you're better off using your finger or some other object than a knife. You know, just in case. Now, if you like fishing, it's believed that when a knife is dropped by someone while cleaning a fish and it lands pointing in the direction of the body of water, the fisherman will get a good haul next time he goes fishing. If the knife falls and points towards land, the fisherman will not catch anything the next time he goes fishing. So that's like a fisherman's tale of spin the bottle. This next one is very similar to when you see in the old movies where they cross swords, but it's crossing knives. You should never cross your knife over the threshold. Wait, no. You're supposed to carry the bride over the threshold. Oh, no. You never cross your knife with another knife because that's just considered bad luck. So don't let that happen, and don't be dropping your bride either. I'm sure that honeymoon will be canceled real quick. Now, believe it or not, as weird as this may sound, there are some superstitions about sleeping with knives. Don't know what kind of person sleeps with knives, but they say putting a knife with a black handle under your pillow at night will ward off nightmares. So you'll have nothing but great dreams. And some believe that if you fall asleep with a knife in your hand, it'll bring them dreams of the future. I don't suggest doing this. Let's just leave this one as it is. I know if I fell asleep with a knife in my hand, I would wake up the next morning hurt. Now, knives are kind of synonymous with eating or preparing food. So it's no stretch of the imagination to guess that there's plenty of superstitions about knives at the table. Like, don't pass a knife across the table from hand to hand as you would maybe the salt and pepper. Instead, put it on the table and pass it by pushing it across the table to the other person. Passing from hand to hand could cause bad blood between you and that person. Another popular superstition surrounding the table is it's considered bad luck to pass a knife across the table and have it fall on the floor to either side. So we'll just scoot it right down the middle. Then there's this. 2 knives crossed on a table will cause a quarrel. It's believed that uncrossing or straightening the knives will immediately prevent bad luck or a quarrel from happening. Now, there's also some superstitions about closing knives or putting knives back in a sheath that other people opened or drew. Some believe that you should never close a folding knife or put it back if someone else opened it, because it's bad luck. Some have even given knives away because this has happened. And here's a really strange one. Slicing hot cornbread with a knife implies cutting your luck. A similar superstition says that cutting bread baked by a pregnant woman may result in the baby being born a boy. And last but not least, this superstition, you never truly own a knife unless it's bitten you. Once it has, you should never trade or sell the knife to anyone else. All right, as usual, I'm going to let you decide. And tell me if you've heard any of these or not. Were they the same? Were they different? Have you heard some that we didn't mention here? If so, let me know down in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Now, it seems that most of the common sense things we were taught about as kids in using knives still stand true, which goes hand in hand with common etiquette. So Hopefully you learned something new, if you weren't already aware. We also learned that these superstitions are all over the place and have been shared and added to throughout history. So don't be trying to drop, toss, or cross a knife to try and find that special someone or to instigate a fight. Keep it safe, let things happen naturally, or not. And as always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, give that like button a stab, and go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss any upcoming content. Also, check out our videos to see what Legion Steel is all about, and grab some info on our new knife model coming out soon. Until next time, take care and stay sharp.